This is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly down here, boys. Oh, my gosh.
Smoking the tires, and Nine's going to miss it. He gets into the wall.
Have you ever?
No, I've never.
How's it going, everybody? I'm RawGator, and today I have a list of the biggest moments of every NASCAR season from 2010 to 2020. The biggest 2010 moment may come as a bit of a surprise, but that moment is actually the entire 2010 Texas Fall Race. Now, we really had three big events that happened throughout this entire race. The first one being Kyle Busch giving the NASCAR official a little birdie. And no, not that type of birdie, but I think you get the idea. I believe Kyle Busch got a speeding penalty, so he had to bring the car back to pit lane, but Kyle was already having quite a bad day. The next main incident in this race was Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton. The two of them actually crashed coming off of turn 2, and Jeff Gordon was the least bit of happy.
I'm pissed right now.
And after a long walk down the back straightaway, what seemed like forever, Jeff Gordon was just ready to unleash his anger.
And there's a fight. They're angry. They know they have lost.
Whoa, just take it easy, man.
And it's safe to say that the NASCAR officials did a pretty decent job of getting the situation under control. However, this moment was actually a defining moment in the race because once Jeff Gordon went to the garage, his pit crew began to service the 48 car of Jimmie Johnson. Now, the number 48 pit crew was having some trouble. They were a little bit slower on stops all day, so the near perfect pit crew of Jeff Gordon came on over.
Do you have any idea how fast I am?
Now, I never put together that all three of these events happened in the same race, and chances are you didn't either. But a serious question is, do you guys even know who won this race? I know for a fact that I didn't, but the winner of this race was Denny Hamlin.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
I know, quite a surprise, huh? In 2011, we have the battle between Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart. Now, Carl Edwards led the Cup Series in points pretty well the whole entire season.
We're going to run this bad. It really doesn't matter whether we make the chase or not.
But all of a sudden, as the chase for the Sprint Cup began, Tony Stewart turned on the jets, went full nitrous, and won 5 of the 10 races in the chase.
Tony Stewart, the fuel holds up. Way to go. Tony Stewart wins, but not enough. Tony Stewart wins at Martinsville. In his bid for the championship, Tony Stewart takes the checkered flag in Texas.
To be a champion, it doesn't mean that things have always been easy. It means you've had to work. It means you've triumphed. It means you became the best. To be a champion, it means your name belongs in the same conversation as Earnhardt, Yarborough, Pearson, and Johnson. To be crowned a champion today, it means you have to beat the other guy. It means you just have to win.
Now the two are battling for the championship together in Homestead Miami Speedway.
Better be worried, that's all I gotta say.
The points going in really couldn't be that much closer, but there was actually a serious turning point in that race. Tony Stewart actually punctured a hole in his grille, and it was up to the pit crew to fix it to keep his championship hopes alive. And beyond belief, the pit crew fixed something that could have really hindered his chances at winning the championship. The grille was nearly back to perfect. And just when you thought things were looking good for Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart made his way up through the entire field and won the race at Homestead. In 2012, things picked back up very quickly. In the very next NASCAR points-paying race, we had the infamous incident with Juan Pablo Montoya hitting the jet dryer in the Daytona 500.
Oh my gosh.
This crazy turn of events led to a crazy red flag. There's a good chance that this red flag marks the most entertaining red flag in all of NASCAR. We had funny interviews with Carl Edwards and Matt Kenseth.
I can't believe you came all the way over here and didn't bring something to eat for all of us.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Brad Keselowski racing to the porta potty, and Brad Keselowski tweeting from inside of his race car.
Brad, who has his iPhone inside his race car. A lot of drivers during testing had special compartments built. He still has his phone inside the car. He tweeted a picture. First time ever.
The fact that Brad Keselowski was able to tweet during a red flag was pretty cool, considering most other professional athletes have to wait probably about an hour before and after a game to be on social media. And looking back on it now, it's crazy that he did it in the middle of the Daytona 500. My friend Jake Baskinger made a great video about this historic red flag, and I highly recommend you check it out if you want some laughs. 2013's biggest NASCAR story was Clint Bowyer's Spingate moment.
I turn now. Good luck, everybody else.
He is all over the track. I mean, what has gotten into him today?
Now, it's pretty much no secret that Clint Bowyer spun on purpose to help Martin Truex Jr. get into the chase, and according to the radio chatter, apparently Clint Bowyer had an itchy arm that he had to itch.
I bet it's hot in there. Itches. Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on, surely you can come up with a better excuse than that. And you can kind of tell after they interviewed Clint Bowyer in his post-race interview that his body language didn't really line up with what he was saying. Martin Truex Jr. actually lost his spot in the chase, which was the opposite of the intended effect. Ryan Newman and Jeff Gordon got put in, which included 13 drivers in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. This was a pretty big moment because the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series usually only allows 12 drivers in the chase, but on this special and rather odd occasion, they had to allow 13. The biggest moment of 2014 was Brad Keselowski versus 3 other drivers in one single race. In 2014's Charlotte race, Brad Keselowski somehow managed to make 3 drivers mad at one time. Those drivers being Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, and Tony Stewart. Now, holy cow, there's a lot to dive into here. I'm just gonna say that I don't know if we'll ever see something like this again in NASCAR. Usually at the end of the race, there's only 1 driver mad at you, maybe 2, but usually only 1. Brad Keselowski somehow managed to pull off the triple. But we'll start with the cool down lap after the race. I guess Brad Keselowski got mad at Denny Hamlin and tried to spin him out on the cool down lap, which failed miserably. And then when Brad Keselowski comes down the pit lane, he comes flying into Matt Kenseth and even Tony Stewart. And you know how Tony Stewart is, he's a team owner, he wasn't gonna take this. Once coming to a stop, Tony Stewart puts the car in reverse and you can pretty much tell what happens from there.
The kid's an idiot.
But when all the cars and drivers are in the garage, Denny Hamlin isn't quite done and he tries to get a word in with Keselowski. He kind of fails and does the next best thing, I guess, which is throwing a towel at Keselowski. I couldn't imagine that one would hurt. So for the most part, that's it between Hamlin and Keselowski. But then you have the crewmates of the 20 car, they're not happy, so they come on over to Brad Keselowski. Not a whole lot happens. But then Brad Keselowski walks in between his hauler and Joey Logano's. And this camera angle is hilarious because Matt Kenseth comes flying into the frame like a defensive end.
Wow. Michigan at the 41. What a hit!
I can definitely say that that's the craziest post-race moment in any NASCAR race I've ever watched. 2015's biggest moment was Kyle Busch breaking his leg at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. Now, since Kyle Busch broke his leg in an accident about 1 or 2 days before the Daytona 500, Matt Crafton was his fill-in driver for the Great American Race. Additionally, Eric Jones also did a good portion of his schedule until he got back, and when he got back, things kind of took off. He won at Sonoma with Kurt Busch right behind him and a number of other races too. The requirement was that Kyle Busch had to get top 30 in points before the playoffs started, in which he did. He went on to win the championship in that very same year. Now the big question was, did he really earn this championship? Because he only ran a little more than half the year. How could it be that a driver does a little more than half the races as everybody else and is also declared the champion at the end of the season? There's really 2 main ways you see Kyle Busch's 2015 season. You likely either think that what he did was incredible, that he broke his leg and was able to come back to win the championship all in the same year, or you could make the argument that he didn't really run a significant portion of the season and possibly stole the championship from a driver who did. 2016's biggest moment was Jimmie Johnson's 7th title to tie Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. The Homestead finale race this year was insane, and I'll have to admit, this whole race, things were not looking good for Jimmie Johnson. But late in the race, that all changed for him because Carl Edwards and Joey Logano tangled up, which ultimately ended Carl Edwards' championship run. And as a Carl Edwards fan, I still can't quite get over it. But 2016, that's not about me. It's about Jimmie Johnson. Everything in this race played just right for Jimmie Johnson. He wasn't the fastest car, but he was there to get the job done. In my opinion, this was the most defining moment in Jimmie Johnson's career. It marked him as one of the NASCAR greats, no questions asked. Chase Elliott versus Denny Hamlin at Martinsville was 2017's biggest story. This was the first real time where if NASCAR fans didn't know before, now they know how big the Chase Elliott fan base is.
What does it mean to hear this crowd as they were booing Denny and now you hear the cheers as they see you on the screen?
It's safe to say that fans were outraged at Denny Hamlin for spinning Chase Elliott in the closing laps. This spin greatly hindered the chance of Chase Elliott going on to fight for a championship at Homestead. But 2 races later at Phoenix Raceway, Chase Elliott got his revenge. And as a member of that crowd on that day, the fans went crazy.
A 7/10 of a second lead over Martin Truex Jr. And there with the tire. The 11 goes into the wall.
Now, if you've made it this far into the video, we got 3 years left, and I want to say if you're enjoying it, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also like the video so you can let other people know that this video is worth watching. The 2018 season didn't have too big of a story besides the battle and the war between Joey Logano and Martin Truex Jr. The whole thing sparked from a bump and run at Martinsville at the last corner. Truex spent laps trying to pass Joey Logano cleanly, but Joey Logano didn't do the same thing to him. The move Joey Logano made allowed him to secure a spot in the championship 4 and pretty much left Martin Truex Jr. empty-handed. This led to a pretty iconic post-race interview from Truex.
May won the battle, but he ain't win the damn war.
Basically saying that Logano won this race, but he won't win the championship and Truex will win it instead. However, that isn't what happened. Joey Logano pretty well sailed to victory, and really it was no contest at all. In 2019, we had a race at the Charlotte Roval, and Chase Elliott had an incredible comeback to win. It all started with Elliott misjudging the braking zone for the Tums Hartburn turn in turn 1. It was a silly mistake, but Chase Elliott left without too much damage. That being said, he came back all the way through the field to win the race in the end. And my favorite part about this win is that he goes to the same very spot that he hit the wall in turn 1, parks the car there, does a burnout on the wall, and emerges from the smoke. If Chase Elliott turns out to have a very successful NASCAR career, I think we'll look back on this race just to see how iconic it was. And last but not least, the biggest story of 2020 was Ryan Newman's Daytona 500 crash. The 2020 Daytona 500 ended in a crazy way, sending Ryan Newman flipping and getting hit while he's already upside down. The conclusion of this race was a concerning time for NASCAR fans because we had no idea what the condition of Ryan Newman was. It took track officials a while to get him out of the race car, in which he was brought to the hospital, and remarkably, we found out that he would live on from this crash. He had a fill-in driver for a few races before the pandemic, but it was no question that he wanted to return to NASCAR racing later that season. So that's it for this video. I did my very best to go over the top moments of the past seasons, and I might have missed something. I'm not perfect, so if you think I missed something, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you're subscribed. That's all I got, and it's time to roll the outro.